Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales but interested in helping people solve problems, or a founder CEO who is looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with the founder of Catalyst Sale, Mike Simmons. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I was just wondering one thing as I was saying that intro. There are episodes you do without me now.
Yep.
Where you interview people and you do that intro. Is it ever kind of in your mind that, oh man, here I am saying Jody's lines? Does that ever mess with you?
No, because I think I helped you write those lines. So weren't they originally my lines that you did the voiceover for? Maybe we worked together. We worked like there are lines, Jody. It's kind of like the scene in Fast Times at Richmond High where we're talking about your time and my time and it's our time with Mr. Hand and Spicoli. And if you have not seen Fast Times at Richmond High, go out there and do yourself a favor and watch it. All
right. Well, so now we've got a movie recommendation from Mike. I'm going to move us on because we've got a heavy topic this week, Mike. That is, I'm not sure if this is the right term, but I'm going to call it the stress of busyness, or perhaps more properly, the distress of busyness, because I'm going through this and I know you're going through it, Mike.
It's amazing when I look up at my whiteboard and I see 3 to 4 different items across 4 to 6 different priorities. And let's just say 6 areas of focus, 3 to 4 items in each. So now we're looking at a list of 24 items. And I've historically talked to people about doing things in blocks and groups of 3. And that 24 is significantly bigger, actually 8 times bigger than 3. So yeah, my stress level, my anxiety level just goes through the roof, and the heart rate goes up and the stomach starts spinning and all of those things. So should we get back to movies?
Probably you need to take a break and watch a movie. But one thing I noticed, the stress you're under hasn't taken away from your math. You're still good at math. You were able to see how much is up there on the whiteboard and do math on the fly, which is good. And I think back to, I'm busting your chops a little bit there, Mike.
Ha ha.
Oh, goodness. It's a tough audience.
Tough crowd today.
Yes. So I think back to something that Lee Cockerell, who has been a guest on this show before, he told me there's a difference between stress, and stress is good. Stress helps us. It's distress that makes us feel bad. And distress is feeling like it's out of control. And I think when you get 24 items on your whiteboard and you're trying to do them all at once, it starts to feel like it's out of control. And that's where the distress comes from.
I would agree. Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And it reinforces the point. And what's funny about this, Jody, is I work with people to help them get through these kind of challenges. Even what inspired this conversation was a tweet that I saw earlier today from Anna Leach, and we'll include a link to it. But she was talking about feeling like she was underwater and what happens next. So I shared some process items. And then it turns into a reminder. Am I actually drinking my own champagne? Am I eating my own dog food? Am I going through that process myself to get a handle on things? And is this distress that I'm feeling, is it real or is it manufactured by perception of something that's going on? Yeah, it's amazing how the mind can play tricks on you. It can do some really good things and put you in a really good state, but it's amazing how quick you can get into a negative state.
Well, Mike Simmons and I were talking just a little bit before we started this episode, and he was asking about the course I've been working on for a while. And I said, it's done. I just don't think I have released it yet. I haven't published it. I haven't put it out there to the world because I don't have any brain power left at the moment. And I think it comes from the distress of busyness, doing too much and spread myself so thin that I look at launching a course, even though it's done, the hard part is done. And I think at this moment, I cannot deal with that. And even though it would mean money in my pocket and helping more people, both of which I like, at this right now, I can't do it. I need to delay it just for a little bit while I pause and catch up on some other items.
So when you go through that process of saying, I'm going to delay it just for a little bit, what's the timeline? Like, how do you define a little bit?
Well, too often I will just say, well, I'm putting that off until I can get back to it. But if you don't put a date on it, a deadline, or a way to make it come back, then you're likely to never return to it, or to just put it off again. And so for this, this is what I'm going through right now is I'm going to be gone for most of 3 weeks. And so I'm trying to decide, okay, I have to put a date on it, period, or it won't happen. And I'm not going to do all the work it took to create this and then never put it out there. And the sooner the better. So now I'm trying to decide, okay, do I get it out before I hit the road, or do I wait until I'm back and maybe can deal with more on the fly? And I haven't decided, but as I work through that, I will decide, I will put a date on it. And I think that's the key. If you say, I'll come back to this in a little bit, well, it turns out to be a lot of bit. I don't know if lot of bit is a word or a phrase, or if I just made that up, but you won't come back to it in a bit. You will keep putting it off. And so you have to for me, I have to put a date on it and say, this is when I'm coming back to it. And when I do, here's what is left to be done. And here's when it'll get done. So my biggest ally in doing this is my yellow legal pad. And I will sit there and say, okay, Podcast Magic, I'm going to launch it on this date. And here are the things that need to be done. And maybe I write down 7 items and I say, okay, but that item, I know there's more involved in that. That particular item has these 3 things that need to be done. And then I can, at least for the time being, feel like, okay, I've done what I can do today. I can put this aside. I'm coming back to it in exactly 12 days. And here are the items that need to be done once I come back to it.
Yeah. Well, and so there's a process that you go through, and that process includes using some tools. The tools that you use are this yellow legal pad and a G7 pen, and you get the information down on paper. And one of the things I had shared with Anna earlier today, and I'll read through the list, but it's gather data, write the stuff down, assess the data, look at the stuff and prioritize. And I'm literally reading the tweet. Eliminate the noise, ask for help, which means delegate if possible, focus on high impact items, start moving forward, in parentheses, do the work, and then reassess. And there's these looping processes. And I think what ends up happening is we get ourselves into this mindset of it's just overwhelming and it's frustrating and it's time consuming and I don't know where to start. And there's so much other stuff that's out there. And there's a phrase, and I forget the first time I heard it, but mañana, 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 tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Is this something where you're just going to continue to push things off until tomorrow? By pushing things off into tomorrow, you don't actually address the challenge that you've got out there. You have a course that you're going to deliver. And I was going to make a joke, and I'm actually still going to make the comment just because I can't keep it inside me. But I was wondering are you delaying it because of a firstborn issue, or you want to be firstborn, or is it something else? Just because I heard that as I was going through the process of saying, hey, I'm not ready to push this live. I'm not ready to push this live. And the reality was, I'm never really going to be ready to push this thing live. On your side, is it not ready because it's not at the level that you want it? Or is it because there's all of these other things that have to go in place before you push it live?
Well, for me, it's maybe truly is a middle child issue. It's not, to bring birth order back into it. It's not, I can't get it perfect. It's that I'm helping people like you, Mike. I do work for you. I do work for other people. And I always put the other people first. And I keep saying, well, I'll come back to mine because I need to do this for Mike, or I need to do this for this client. And that has been it. And and I'm happy to do so. I'm all about serving the people I work with. Does not always leave enough for me, though.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that you did, I'm forgetting just because it's been so long that we've been working together, but I remember there was a period of time where you made a commitment. You said, I am not going to book things on Fridays.
That's right. That I started that in January 2018, and in January 2019, it's now Thursdays and Fridays.
You've got 2 days where you're doing this. See, this is awesome, right? So I had a conversation with a group of people yesterday. I joined a mastermind group as a speaker. And one of the items that we talked about was time management. And as we were going through time management, talking about the Eisenhower box, the 2x2, the urgent not urgent, important, not important items, and figuring out how to organize those things so that you can execute on the things that are important. One of the comments I made was, I would love to have a day where all I do is focus on those things that are not urgent, but important, that are going to move the business forward. And I originally said 25% of the time. I said, this would be ideal, 25% of the time. And I said, well, maybe the thing to do is to set aside a day. Well, a day is only going to be 20%. And I said, I would love to do this. And then after we wrapped up, I thought back on this, or reflected back on the conversation. I thought, why the heck am I not doing it? Why am I not making one of those days in that time period where it is purely blocked for these kind of things, so that when the stress of all of the other stuff happens, I've got a window, I've got a time period where I know there's going to be a place where I can break away and get focused on the things that are truly important, but not necessarily urgent.
Well, I think it's crucial. And I believed when I did it starting January 2018, I really thought this is going to hurt my business, because for whatever reason, Friday was a really popular day for people to schedule coaching calls, recording podcasts, or phone calls. It was a really popular day. I thought, this is really going to hurt my business. And you were one. You used to schedule with me quite often on Friday.
Yep.
And I blocked off Fridays, and I told people I'm not doing any more recording on Friday, no more coaching calls on Friday. And the general response was pretty much what Mike's response was, like, oh, okay. And that was it. And there was no pushback, but I've always made exceptions when I need to. But here's what happened. I blocked Friday off because I thought then I could work on my urgent, important stuff. But what ended up happening is I will say it did now free up more time on the weekends, because I found myself doing less on the weekends. But Friday was spent catching up from everything that happened throughout the week. So it gave me a day to catch up, but it didn't give me a day to work on my stuff, which is why I'm now blocking 2 days off a week, because I figure, okay, Thursday will now be the catch-up day, and Friday will be my day to work on my stuff. And then I won't find myself in the position I am with Podcast Magic course, where it's all ready to go, but I can't execute it because I don't have available time, or I'm not willing to devote available time to it because I'm doing so much else.
Yep.
I think there's the key in the distress of busyness is once you can put something in place and feel like you have a foothold, you start to feel like you have a little more control. And as we said in the beginning, it's the distress of feeling out of control that causes the problem. And if you can get a foothold by claiming some of your time back that now you can decide what you're using it for, I think that's the start of getting rid of this feeling that you're feeling, Mike.
Yeah, it's the start, and then you can start actually doing the work, right? You can get into that piece of actually executing, starting to check things off the list, but don't forget the really important piece, or an equally important piece, which is reassessing things, reflecting on things, and say, am I actually making progress? Am I doing things that are truly impactful, or am I getting myself into a situation where I'm just kind of pushing off the inevitable to a later date where I'm going to create this high level of frustration? Another thing that has helped me in the process is identify opportunities to do the things that I really like, which are talking with people, talking with customers, helping people solve problems. So the more that I can get those calls, which sounds like it could border on procrastination because I'm doing some other busy thing that may not necessarily be on the list, but it can get me out of the negative headspace where I'm actually engaging with others and reinforcing that I actually know what I'm doing. I'm good at this thing. I can do this thing well. I can make an impact on others. And that positive headspace can help to clear up or help get you into a position to work on some of those things that are creating that distress. So that's another aspect of the process that I apply, or that I've applied in these situations, where I try to do more things, whether it's participate in an event, a local event where I get to communicate with folks directly, or having a coaching call, or participating in a virtual mastermind, or talking to clients, having those discussions. It's amazing how that experience can help you get out of that negative headspace.
Along with that, I think these are tied together. I have found if I'm feeling the distress, I'm overwhelmed, I'm too busy, if I can find a way to pull off a quick win where I feel like I've had a victory in something, it really helps to settle things down. And it can be something really small even, but just that, like something went really well. I made a sale. I had a great call with a prospect, even a great call with a coaching client, something like that. If it feels like a win, it feels like it starts to steady things a little bit. Even though I may be just as busy as I was prior, it just helps with the feeling.
It helps you get into that positive, again, that positive headspace, that positive mindset of, hey, I'm actually moving things forward. I'm making an impact. And that quick win could be a single, it could be a double, and to get into baseball, your metaphors, but it doesn't have to be major. It could just be enough to help you break out of that rut. I think another thing that's really important as you go through this is trust your own personal processes. There's a reason you're in the role that you're in. There's a reason you're doing the work that you're doing. You've made an impact on others over a period of time. Don't forget that. Sometimes the only thing that's changed is the operating environment, and you can move yourself out of that operating environment, get yourself into a better mindset, and get focused and start executing again.
Yes, that's so. As we wrap up, I want you to give some advice, Mike. If we're feeling like this, we're distressed because we're so busy, there's so much going on. I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to start a day or what happened when a day finishes. What advice do you have for us to start to finally get that foothold and get this under control?
Well, I like to write things down. So I would write down on a whiteboard or write down on a piece of paper, just kind of the things that are in front of you, which can be overwhelming, but at least get it on paper. Then once you've got it on paper, you can go through the process of saying, how much of these things are important? How many of these things are not important? And we talked a little bit about some of those steps, and we'll include a link to a list of things that you can go through. But in order to avoid being redundant, and I think this is something that I've not touched on, but is a really important piece, realize that you're not alone. You're not the only one that's going through this situation. You're not the only one that's ever had this level of stress. Leverage the relationships that you have. Lean on the people that you trust. Be open and transparent with them. This is where coaches and mentors and confidants and friends and spouses and all of the above can really help you out. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share. It's okay to be open. Through that process, you can realize, hey, there's a way out and there's something that I can do differently. But don't ever get into the situation where you try to just do it all by yourself, where you lock yourself up in a corner. And I'm known to, when I get into high stress situations, to throw on my Bose QC35 headphones on, turn on some music, just get going, grind through things. But that's not always the healthiest way to go about pushing through barriers.
All right. If you want to join in on this conversation with Mike, share some tips, ask for advice or counsel, or just say, hey, Mike, I appreciated that episode, just to hear that I'm not alone. We want you to reach out. Mike, how can people get in touch?
So this will go live during football season. If you follow Simmons_M, you'll see not only stuff related to Catalyst Sale and sales in general, but you'll also see a lot of Sun Devil stuff. Unfortunately, you'll see some Jet stuff. You'll see some Islander stuff. You'll see some barbecue. You'll see all of that kind of stuff. If you'd like to avoid that noise, follow us at Catalyst Sale on Twitter, at Catalyst Sale on Twitter, Catalyst Sale on LinkedIn, or go to catalystsale.com. And you've got direct access to our live chat, which goes right into the Slack instance. So if you want to communicate there, you can keep things private that way as well. So either Catalyst Sale or Simmons_M on Twitter.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale podcast.